sir, I'm back. Sir, a couple of my babies, they were sleeping nicely on their chair. And so I showed you them. And I showed you the title. We're doing the whiteboard simplified series again. So this is part two. And it's the fourth in the simplified series. It's part two of the evaluation of PATAP. And I did show you my babies sitting very nicely with a big pushes for me. Again, really don't need this because I'm inside and it's only me and the cats. So I've already done part one, introduction, and now we're going to move on to part two. So we've got the title, you saw the babies, and I picked one up. He got up from the chair anyway, so I picked him up and he wriggled off. So cameo appearances, guest appearances from from my children. Now I'm going to continue with part two, and we've got another hat now. We've got another car hat. There is a podcast on my old Mercedes, comparing it to a friend's newer Mercedes. It's a previous podcast. If you haven't already seen it, it's your little advertisement for that podcast. Now continuing on, in the first part, I introduced the this whole PATAP evaluation thing, and it said that I am now 11 months, almost, not quite, almost 11 months clear, talked about the pushes and the pulls and all of that stuff. And now I'm actually going to go through PATAP. Now, if you have seen the previous podcasts, you'll be somewhat familiar with this. And it's just my own approach. As I keep saying, I'm not suggesting this for anyone else. This is what has sort of worked for me. And in the end, it's worked. I mean, 11 months, but everything came together. As I said, it's converged. So, Nutty Prof's personalized approach to addiction process. And step one is turn back or not to turn back. And as I've said, this is one of the differences between my approach and the 12 steps. The 12 steps, the 12th step, the bottom one, is once you have been saved, or once you have, had your spiritual awakening and you're clean, you kind of have an obligation to carry your message. I think that's their language. You're supposed to carry your message to others and help them, And my thing is, if my podcasts help anyone who is struggling, I do get a lot of viewers, but even if 2 or 3 people find it useful in terms of even what not to do for themselves, if they win, if it helps a couple of people, or it helps civilians learn more about addictive processes, that's fine. But I am not telling anyone to turn back. Number one is you've got to decide, turn back or not, and some people hit a wall, some people hit a wall and just keep going, and if you're going to keep going and you're going to keep doing whatever you need to do to feed your addiction, my thing to you is go for it, add oil, as that's why I say add oil instead of stay strong, because I'm like, if you don't want to turn, if you're not going to put the effort into it, you don't have anything to turn back for, you want to live your life in fast forward, and you want to do whatever you need to do and burn yourself out, fine, go for it. I will never ever tell you to stop. So now, if you are turning back, it's usually for step two. So step two is reasons to turn back. It's a list, and I've talked to other people dealing with addictions who've told me that they've also made up lists. And for a lot of people, it might be human children, their work or something like that, or maybe a spouse, a human spouse of some kind. But in my case, the number one in my list has always been my cat, and now cats. and the my older cat and my beloved baby cats, and they have more responsibility. The babies, to be fed and exercised and all that stuff, much more so. The other one, the older cat, I could leave for overnight. It would go off, come back the next day, but you can't do that with the babies, and they're very, very attached to me. So they're a huge, huge, huge push. So the list, and then on my list I also had a podcast I want to do. And I've done so far 30, 31, 32, So a podcast, and I still want to get my writing published. I've written a lot. And the writing is more detailed and more personal, and I reveal more. There's more scope for anonymity there because they can fictionalize a bit and change names and do all of that and go into more details. Here I can just skirt around some of the details. So and I've written a lot. I've had a couple of editors, didn't work out, long story, and for now I've kind of shelved it. I looked for an editor, found one towards the beginning of COVID. As I said, it didn't quite work out, and then COVID happened, and then the focus shifted, and I'm just working on the podcast. And the good thing about the podcast is you don't have to send out query letters and find an agent and all that. Just do them, So for now, I'm just doing podcasts. I've got these things that I want to get done. I do want eventually when to publish, I've got a podcast to do, I have my children to look after, and I've got some friends, stuff like that, and now I got the car collection, it's grown. Got the mini, So, what are you turning back for? No, number two. No, number three, and I think it varied. At one point, I had it as four, then I had it as three, and I move these things around. But on this list, I have three as ESG, establishing a support group. Now, it's not a formal group, and it's kind of changed. It's like one or two people that I talk to about my issues sometimes, and now it's all email and text anyway. It's not in person. If you go the 12-step route, the support group is automatic. It's there. And even that's changed now because it's on Zoom and stuff like that because of the social distance. So, but the establishment of support group, and it's kind of changed for me a bit. I had a couple of friends that didn't things didn't work out and we had falling out but I have my student, my former student, my producer, who and I wouldn't have, and I keep saying I could not have done any of these podcasts without his help, and aside from the podcasts, he's been there for me when I have cravings. I send him a text and he goes, Prof, and hang in there, Prof. I've got another former student out in Manitoba who doesn't really have addictions herself, but she's a real cat person and has human children and stuff like that. And we exchange. She's very busy, but she still exchanges emails, and she's very supportive. And the cat person from the shelter, the coordinator, has been, sort of, we exchange emails beyond and text beyond just, the volunteering. And she does know about the issues, and she's not addictive herself, but she is sympathetic, and it's encouraging, and she's made a couple of suggestions which I have incorporated, you'll see, into my system, So since you're doing it on your own, this support group thing, it's kind of optional too. I mean, most of it is done on my own, but it's nice to have that option of, once in a while when the cravings are really bad, and then I get an email from somebody going, "How you doing?" It's good. It helps, but it's not absolutely necessary, and I do have my analyst, and I kind of put him into this. I mean, he's my analyst, but and he was really there for me when things were really, really bad towards the end of the thing of the binging. So now our fourth one is the intensity frequency scale. And you can see on this, we have these things here. OSAT, OMAT, OHAT, OWAT. They stand for 1 second at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 week at a time, yeah, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time. I'm just approaching a year, but it's still very often 1 minute when the cravings come. It's 1 minute at a time. And when they're really strong. Yeah. But as I said, my new system now is pushes and pulls, and that kind of fits over this. Now, I also have, and this is thanks to my cat coordinator, volunteer shelter, kind of a new acquaintance, and she's such a cat person. Oh, you see, I got a little cat there. But she's such a cat person that once I said, it's been months now, 7, 8 months at the time, and they go, when the cravings come, they're still pretty strong. I still want to go binge. And being a cat person, instead of saying 1 day at a time, like the 12-step people say, and she's not been through any of that. She's not addictive herself. So, but her suggestion was, and she's one of these people that will say, instead of saying, hand or fingers crossed, she'll say, paws crossed. So she said, one paw in front of the other. And I like acronyms. So I've made this OPIFOTO. So OPIFOTO, one paw in front of the other. And it's kind of represented like this. Okay, so you got when the cravings are very, very strong, and it's like this 1 moment at a time, and I kind of think of pretend to be a cat, and I go paw in front of the other, paw. So foot's a little silly, but anyway, so whatever works. Gotta have a little fun with this, otherwise, otherwise you'll just drown in it. So, you know what? We're at 12 minutes again. I think this is going to turn into a four-parter. So we've done part two. Let's stop now, and we'll do a part three. We'll finish off. I don't want to make these things too long. If there's somebody who's climbing all over the table, you get there. Don't be licking this. The stuff is toxic. Don't be licking this, sweetie. But anyway, we'll let's. I get to pet a child, and make sure the child doesn't lick whiteboard marker, and it will come back shortly, very soon, with part three of evaluation of PATAP. So, see you soon, very soon. Okay? Bye for now.